In a quaint suburban neighborhood, Karen Thompson was well known as an active member of the Homeowners Association. With her tidy lawn and well-kept flower beds, she was a fixture at community meetings, always advocating for rules that helped maintain a certain aesthetic around their homes. To Karen, visual uniformity wasn't just about appearances, it was about pride in their community. She believed that every house should fit into a harmonious design, creating an inviting atmosphere for all residents. Karen's views were deeply rooted in her upbringing. She often reminisced about how her parents instilled in her the value of order and neatness. In her mind, the perfect neighborhood was one where everything matched, colors, styles, and even landscaping. It made her feel secure and content. However, this perspective would soon clash with the needs of others in the community. When one of her neighbors, who had recently become disabled, installed a ramp to help them access their home more easily, Karen was taken aback. To her, the ramp seemed like an intrusion on the visual harmony she cherished so much. Instead of understanding the ramp's purpose, Karen fixated on how it disrupted the aesthetic she fought to protect. Fueled by her beliefs, she decided to take action. Karen wrote up a petition to have the ramp removed, convinced that she was doing what was best for the neighborhood. Little did she know that this decision would spark a series of events that would turn her community, and her life, upside down. The day the ramp was installed, the sun shone brightly in the neighborhood, casting a warm glow on the houses that lined the street. For Mark, the neighbor who had recently become disabled, this ramp was not just an installation, it was a lifeline that offered him independence and ease of access to his home. After months of struggle and relying on others for help, he finally felt a sense of relief knowing he could navigate his space more freely. However, as Mark surveyed the completed ramp, a sturdy wooden structure painted in a light beige to match his home, Karen noticed it immediately from her front yard. To her, it was like an unwelcome blemish on what she deemed a pristine canvas. The ramp's presence disrupted the cohesive look of their otherwise uniform street, which boasted similar colors, styles, and well-manicured lawns. Despite its purpose and utility for Mark and his family, Karen couldn't shake off her feelings of discontent. She felt the ramp stood out like a sore thumb against the backdrop of neatly trimmed hedges and classic architecture. In her mind, it signaled a break from the traditions that had defined their community for years. As days passed, residents began to notice Karen's disapproving glances towards Mark's home whenever they walked by. To many, it was clear how much this ramp meant to him and his family. Yet Karen remained unmoved, fixated on how this change altered not just the visual landscape but also challenged her notion of what their neighborhood should represent, a perfect image of order she held dear. As the days passed, Karen's frustration over the ramp grew. Each time she walked by Mark's house, her sense of unease intensified. To her, the ramp symbolized a break from the structured beauty of their neighborhood, a shift that she believed threatened the very essence of what made their community special. It felt to her like an open invitation for further changes that could unravel the uniformity she held dear. Karen often found herself thinking back to her childhood, where everything had its place and purpose. She cherished the predictability of her surroundings and felt that deviations from this norm could lead to chaos. The ramp, with its bold presence, seemed to scream for attention in a way that clashed with her ideals. Instead of seeing it as a vital necessity for Mark, she focused solely on how it marred the landscape she had fought so hard to preserve. In conversations with friends and fellow HOA members, Karen voiced her concerns passionately. "It's not just about aesthetics," she declared, "it's about maintaining the values our community stands for." Many listened politely but couldn't share her enthusiasm for conformity over compassion. Her fixation on visual uniformity blinded her to the broader implications of her stance. While she believed she was advocating for their neighborhood's integrity, others began to see her as insensitive and out of touch. This conflict between her values and the needs of a neighbor became increasingly apparent, setting the stage for a growing divide within their once close community. As Karen clung to her convictions, tension bubbled beneath the surface, hinting at an impending clash that would change everything. Determined to take a stand, Karen gathered her thoughts and drafted a petition for the ramp's removal. The process felt empowering to her, it was her chance to rally the community around a shared goal. Sitting at her dining room table, she carefully outlined her reasons, focusing on the need to preserve the neighborhood's aesthetic and protect what she believed made their home special. With her convictions fueling her words, she prepared for the challenge ahead. The next day, Karen began her campaign by approaching a few neighbors she trusted, hoping to gain their support. Even though some were taken aback by her strong feelings about the ramp, a few agreed that maintaining visual harmony was important. They signed her petition, expressing concerns that echoed Karen's, thoughts of how this new structure could set a precedent for other modifications in the future. As Karen secured more signatures, she grew more confident and excited about her cause. At the upcoming Homeowners Association meeting, she planned to present the collected signatures and voice her concerns passionately. She envisioned capturing others' attention and garnering their support. However, not everyone shared her view. While some neighbors signed willingly, others were hesitant or outright opposed to her plan. They valued Mark's independence and saw the ramp as an essential improvement rather than an eyesore. Unbeknownst to Karen, this division was already beginning to form within the community. As she prepared to unveil her petition at the meeting, tension simmered just beneath the surface, setting the stage for an unexpected clash of ideals that would challenge everything Karen thought she stood for. As the petition circulated, the community's mood shifted dramatically. What began as a small group of supporters for Karen's cause soon turned into public discussions about accessibility and inclusion. Neighbors who had initially signed her petition began to reconsider their stance, realizing the implications of supporting a move that could hinder a disabled person's quality of life. At the next Homeowners Association meeting, Karen stepped up to present her petition with confidence, but she was met with an unexpected wave of resistance. Many residents spoke out against her views, emphasizing that Mark's ramp was not just a structure, it represented his independence and dignity. Voices rose in passionate defense of accessibility, urging the community to embrace inclusivity rather than conformity. The backlash escalated further when local news outlets picked up the story, highlighting Karen's petition and framing it as a controversy over disability rights. Headlines called attention to the clash between aesthetics and humanity, drawing in residents who hadn't been directly involved before. Suddenly, Karen found herself at the center of a heated debate, with discussions spilling over into social media where opinions varied widely. As conversations continued, a disability rights group stepped in, expressing outrage at Karen's actions and filing a formal complaint against her. The narrative quickly shifted away from visual uniformity towards one focused on compassion and understanding. Neighbors who once supported Karen now faced a moral dilemma about how they wanted their community to be perceived. Feeling increasingly isolated and criticized, Karen realized that her fixation on aesthetics had backfired, leading many to view her as insensitive. The community she had once felt so proud to represent now felt like an unwelcoming place for her views. As tensions simmered and divided opinions emerged, it became clear that this situation would have far-reaching consequences for everyone involved. As the controversy over the ramp unfolded, local news outlets began to take notice, eager to report on the evolving situation in the suburban neighborhood. Journalists arrived with cameras and notepads, seeking to capture both sides of the debate. The story quickly gained traction, highlighting Karen's petition against the ramp while also featuring heartfelt testimonials from Mark and his family about the struggles they faced without proper accessibility. News segments aired interviews that showcased Karen's perspective, portraying her as a concerned community member advocating for visual harmony. However, they balanced this with contrasting opinions from neighbors who spoke passionately about inclusivity and disability rights. Many residents expressed disbelief that someone could prioritize aesthetics over the needs of a disabled individual, underscoring how important it was for communities to be welcoming and accommodating. Social media erupted in response to these reports, with hashtags like #AccessibilityMatters and #InclusionOverUniformity trending in the area. This newfound attention raised awareness about the importance of making communities accessible for everyone, regardless of their physical abilities. As discussions spilled over into online forums and community boards, residents began sharing their own experiences and advocating for change. The coverage prompted a disability rights organization to step in, expressing outrage at Karen's actions and filing a formal complaint. This intervention amplified the conversation surrounding disability rights, pushing it into the forefront of community discourse. While some residents tried to defend Karen's intentions, many others viewed her as increasingly out of touch with modern values. Ultimately, the media coverage transformed what started as a local dispute into a broader discussion about empathy and acceptance, leaving Karen grappling with her changing place in a community that was redefining its identity. As the story gained traction in the media, it caught the attention of a prominent disability rights organization focused on advocating for accessibility and fighting discrimination. After watching news segments showcasing the community's backlash against Karen's petition, leaders within the group recognized that her actions could serve as a troubling example of how societal attitudes toward disability still needed significant improvement. Understanding the broader implications of the situation, the organization decided to take action. They initiated research into local laws regarding accessibility and identified Karen's petition as not only a personal stance but as a potential violation of fair housing and discrimination laws. With this framework in mind, they were compelled to intervene on behalf of Mark and others in similar situations. In a formal statement, the organization expressed their outrage over Karen's petition, condemning it as an attack on the dignity and rights of people with disabilities. They swiftly filed a complaint against her actions, citing concerns that her fixation on aesthetics overlooked the pressing need for accessible housing for all members of the community. This involvement from a well-respected advocacy group sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. Their complaint drew further media coverage, pushing discussions about disability rights into even sharper focus. The situation escalated quickly, with supporters rallying around Mark and advocating for inclusivity while Karen faced growing scrutiny and criticism. Many began to see her petition not just as misguided but harmful. As Karen grappled with this new reality, she felt increasingly cornered by various forces coming together to oppose her viewpoint. The weight of the complaint served as another nail in the coffin for her reputation within her once supportive community, positioning her actions starkly against those fighting for greater acceptance and understanding. As the fallout from the petition escalated, the pressure on Karen began to mount. At a subsequent homeowners association meeting, several members openly expressed their disapproval of her actions. They voiced how her push against the ramp contradicted the values of inclusion and support that they believed should define their community. With community sentiment shifting against her, Karen felt increasingly isolated and defensive. The growing discontent among residents culminated in a vote during one of the HOA meetings. Faced with mounting criticism, Karen's supporters were few and far between. Instead, many neighbors felt compelled to stand up for Mark, asserting that accessibility was not just a necessity but a right. The board ultimately decided that Karen's position as a committee member was untenable, resulting in her being voted out. Her removal sent shockwaves through the community and served as a stark reminder of the consequences of her actions. Losing her HOA position left Karen feeling stripped of her influence and standing within the neighborhood she once so proudly represented. To many, it signaled a rejection of her views and an affirmation of their commitment to inclusivity. Additionally, as word spread about Karen's situation, she faced harassment online. Some individuals shared personal details and opinions about her actions, leading to doxing, where private information was revealed without her consent. This invasion of her privacy only intensified her feelings of victimization, as she claimed she was experiencing reverse discrimination for voicing her beliefs. As Karen processed this new reality, she found herself grappling with a profound sense of loss, not just of her position but of the supportive community she had once enjoyed. With tensions still high, Karen realized that this conflict had forever changed the dynamics within her neighborhood and altered how she would be viewed moving forward. After Karen's removal from the homeowners association, the backlash against her actions escalated dramatically. As tensions reached a boiling point, some individuals within the community turned to social media as a platform to express their outrage. In the heat of the moment, Karen's personal information, her home address, phone number, and even her workplace, was shared online by anonymous users who felt justified in their anger toward her. The doxing incident hit Karen hard. Suddenly, she was thrust into a spotlight she never wanted, facing harassment and threats from strangers who believed they were standing up for a greater cause. The sense of safety she had once felt in her neighborhood evaporated, replaced by anxiety and fear. She could no longer walk her dog or go grocery shopping without looking over her shoulder, worried about who might recognize her and what they might say or do. As her personal life unraveled under this scrutiny, Karen felt an overwhelming sense of isolation. Friends and neighbors who once supported her began to distance themselves either out of fear of backlash or because they disagreed with her stance on the ramp. The supportive community she cherished now felt like an alien landscape. While Karen attempted to address the harassment by speaking out against doxing and its consequences, she struggled to find her voice amidst the chaos. Caught in a web of emotions ranging from anger to sadness, she began to see how her actions had unintended consequences not only for herself but also for Mark and others in the community. As she navigated this challenging moment, it became clear that the conflict over the ramp had escalated into something much larger, and the cost of her previous beliefs was far greater than she had ever anticipated. As the situation spiraled out of control, Karen struggled to articulate her feelings and the sense of injustice she experienced. In her mind, she began to see herself as a victim of reverse discrimination, claiming that her concerns about visual uniformity had been unfairly dismissed. She felt as though society had turned on her for merely expressing her beliefs, and the backlash left her bewildered and frustrated. During interviews and conversations with those willing to listen, Karen emphasized her stance on aesthetics, insisting that her views were valid and should not have been met with such hostility. "Why is my perspective seen as wrong?" she questioned. "I care about our community's look just as much as anyone else." To Karen, it felt like the community had abandoned its commitment to diverse opinions in favor of a single narrative focused solely on accessibility. Karen also felt betrayed by friends and neighbors, who she believed had once supported her during HOA meetings. She expressed that their sudden shift in allegiance was a painful reminder of how she had been vilified for standing up against what she perceived as an imposition on her community's values. The doxing incident and the resulting harassment only seemed to amplify her belief that she was being persecuted for advocating for what she thought was right. In her version of events, it wasn't just Mark's ramp that got in the way, it was a collective rejection of differing viewpoints that truly troubled her. With every new piece of backlash, Karen's conviction grew that she was not only defending visual uniformity but also fighting against a society that punished dissenting voices. The more she internalized this belief, the more disconnected she felt from the very community she had sought to protect. The events surrounding Karen's petition and the subsequent fallout highlight significant themes of community dynamics, accessibility, and the necessity of understanding diverse perspectives. Initially, Karen believed her advocacy for visual uniformity was a harmless expression of community pride. However, her fixation blinded her to the critical importance of accessibility for individuals like Mark, who required the ramp to navigate daily life. As the community reacted to her petition, it became evident that differing viewpoints could lead to conflict. The backlash against Karen underscored how quickly support could dissipate when actions are perceived as harmful or exclusionary. When confronted with the realities faced by disabled individuals, many residents chose to advocate for inclusivity over aesthetics. This shift in perspective prompted a broader discussion about what it means to be a community that values all its members. The involvement of local media and disability rights organizations further amplified these discussions, bringing national attention to issues of accessibility and discrimination. While Karen viewed herself as a victim of reverse discrimination, her experience serves as a reminder that advocating for one's beliefs can sometimes unintentionally marginalize others. Ultimately, this situation illustrates the delicate balance between maintaining personal convictions and recognizing the needs of a diverse community. The repercussions of Karen's actions not only affected her standing within the neighborhood but also sparked conversations about empathy and understanding that may lead to positive change. As communities continue to navigate these complex dynamics, fostering an environment where all voices are heard and respected will be essential for moving forward together.